This is Eric and Carol's.
Flirting with Realities podcast.
Yeah, so this is the first one. So we just kind of decided to do this because, like, the YouTube thing was weird. Like, we kind of felt like it wasn't as genuine as we wanted to be, I guess. And
Like we'd be more authentic on a podcast.
yeah, and then, like, I guess the topic thing was kind of getting, like, it just felt weird. Because it was like, it felt like it needed like a script or something, and like, it just was like, well, I guess we were talking, and I guess the thing was we wanted to have, we wanted to make it like more like a YouTube video, right? Like you were bring up points and charts and shit, and like things for people to look at, and which all makes sense. But for some reason, I guess when you just do like a shooting from the hip podcast, and like even if you do a video, it doesn't feel like there's that pressure, and we can just kind of be genuine and talk about life and shit.
Yeah.
Does that sum it up for you?
Yeah, I don't think we need to explain.
Oh, okay. So how was your day, Carolee?
It was actually really amazing. As you know, it started out pretty emotional for me. I did somatic breath work.
So explain to me what... So, like, I went up in a loft because, like, for people listening, so I guess we're doing, like, our businesses and stuff, and so, like, I was up doing stuff on the computer, and, like, before I go outside, I just tell you I'm going outside and say goodbye and stuff, but, so I went up in the loft to tell you goodbye, and, like, you were shaking and crazy emotional, so I don't even know really why, so why don't you tell me why was that such an impact? Like, what did you even do? I don't even know what you did, or, like, why don't you tell me, like,
What it was.
what it was a part of, like, what, you know, fill me and everybody else in on, like, what you're doing and stuff.
Well, I'm doing a course with Aaron Doherty, Vic Otto, and Matt, and I don't know Matt's last name. You have to forgive me, Matt. But it's a conscious business accelerator course, and they're very spiritual men. They're really into ayahuasca and meditation.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they hold an event every year in Costa Rica.
An ayahuasca event?
Yes. So they're coming at you. So I'm trying to grow a business. We're trying to grow a business. And so I thought this would be a great way to get like more in tune with having a successful business and kind of from a conscious place. So long story short, the somatic breath work it's a lot like Wim Hof. It's what it actually came from, which I learned today, is a gentleman in the 60s was doing psychological experiments on people with LSD, and the funding was taken away for his program, and it was made illegal. So he was trying...
breathing program was?
No, LSD.
Oh, just LSD. It wasn't part of
Yes.
breathing?
Yeah.
But breathing was part of LSD?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
So he wanted to come up with something similar to what he was doing, that because his LSD experiments were really helping people. He was helping people with PTSD, yada yada. Anyway, so he came up with a version of this breath work. They've discovered that it releases DMT in your brain while you're doing it. I also didn't know that DMT was released while we were sleeping, and maybe I did know that and they reminded me. I had forgotten. I'm not sure. But so this breath work, I was just going into it thinking it was like a meditation, right? I've done Wim Hof exercises before, so I wasn't expecting anything fucking crazy. But he starts to say, like, he's kind of telling you what you need to do. He's like, I just want you to lay flat. we're going to do breathing. And he's like, it's really simple. This is how you do it. And he showed us, and he goes, I just also want to prepare you that sometimes people start shaking during this. And I was thinking to myself, oh yeah, that's those emotional people.
Yeah.
I was just like, I was listening to him, but I'm like, things don't happen to me like that, right? I was thinking, oh,
It's
that's
almost like a placebo or something, you know? You're like, we're doing a placebo test, and you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to be one of those idiots that believes in placebos.
exactly. So I just didn't really think anything of it. I had done that immersion thing at the Matthew Hussey retreat, and everybody
that?
was crying. That's where he kind of takes you to your death.
Oh,
And brings you, it's very immersive. And I was pretty emotional, but I wasn't like hysterically crying. You know, it was an intense experience. Anyway, so I just wasn't thinking. I'm like, so they might start shaking. He goes, another thing is sometimes people's hands tense up like this. And he's like, you may like just all of a sudden want to cry or sing, or you may feel a little hysterical and you might start shaking. And I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, I'm looking forward to the meditation type piece of it, right? Because I'm a meditator. So I start doing the breathing with him, and you breathe in and out of your mouth. He explains the importance of being a nose breather, but for this purpose of somatic breath work, you're in your mouth and out your mouth, and you do it for probably like 10 minutes.
just normal breathing?
No, it's
Oh, like intense?
for like 10 minutes.
Like right from the start?
Yes. And then he'll stop you and have you take like 3 breaths and then hold the third one. And it's progressive, right? But yes, I got emotional. I was shaking like a leaf. Like it was involuntary shaking. I was crying like a baby. Yeah, it was an intense, immersive experience. And then his wife came on and started singing, and I started crying harder. It was just an amazing experience. And what they say it's doing is releasing old energy, traumas from your childhood that's deep within you. It's releasing it. And I've heard Dr. Joe Dispenza talk about this. It's quite impactful.
So were you having like thoughts when you were crying, or were you just crying for the sake of crying, kind of?
No, I think you're really involved in the experience, and your mind isn't going, you're not like racing with thoughts.
Do you think you'd cry if you did it again?
Yes, I think it's an intense experience. I mean, I don't know if that's the case, if you're removing old energies that are like traumatic experiences from your body, I don't know if it would be as intense next time.
Do you think you'd like have all those experiences if you did it on your own? Like if you would have just read about it and then done it on your own, or do you think it was part of like being a group too?
I believe in collective consciousness, and that you can raise energy with a group of people. So that may very well have been a factor. There were 1,800 other people doing it with me.
1,800?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like yoga, right? Because like, I mean, that's like, doing yoga now, but I'm thinking about leaving the studio and just doing yoga at home through like yoga and YouTube or whatever. But that's one of the things I'm worried about is you go into like a studio, you go into a class. I mean, part of the big deal is having people around you.
Could you do an online class?
I don't think it would be the same. Which is funny because like yoga, like when I go to yoga now in this yoga studio I'm going to now, it's like typically there's somebody next to me just irritating the shit out of me. So it's like the opposite. But like I've gone to yoga before, and like somebody's been next to me and they're like killing it, and then they like push you to kill it. And like I've had yoga experiences before where like the person next to you, like you don't even have to know them, and like there's like this connection, like because of the energy they're putting off through all their effort or whatever it is, and it makes you give more effort. And then like it's like, I mean, I've met people in yoga, like you end the class and you're like, you know, you look over and you're like, damn, that was awesome. And they're like, I know, like I was feeling you too, like that was awesome. I was watching you and you were pushing me and I was pushing you. And anyway, I was just wondering, like, how much of that experience do you think would be a collective?
I think it definitely has something to do with. So it was Vic that was heading it up, however, narrating it, whatever you want to talk about it.
Like leading the meditation?
So I think, I mean, that definitely has something to do with it. Like, who's...
Him? You think he
Him and his wife? Yeah, for sure.
So, like, so what did they do? They like made you breathe really heavy and then pause and like. But what do you think? What do you think it was? Like the oxygen, like the what you're doing. Like, what do you think triggered everything?
I honestly believe that it's old energies leaving your body.
Because oxygen, or just because you put yourself in this like
I
dream state or something?
I don't want to talk to it. I think we would need to like bring on Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he could say medically, because he's like a neurobiologist.
Yeah, but I'm just like saying, like, what do you think? Like, you when you're in it, like, if you had to guess, like, I mean, you don't have to be like, this is what happened, or, you know what I mean? Like, what do you like? What was your experience? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, I believe it's old traumatic energy leaving your body. Was that your question?
Because well, I'm just curious, like, do you think it was like getting so much oxygen to your brain that your brain like hallucinates? Like, do you feel like it was like drug-like?
It's definitely a drug. My hands were numb, my feet were numb.
Like, do you think you got to the point of like hyperventilation?
No.
It wasn't that intense?
No.
It's just weird, you know, like we talk about, like breathing is such a big deal. You know, I mean, like when you go back to yoga, it's like, oh, it's not even yoga, but like breathing is such a huge deal in everyday life. You know, like this is what I've always tried to tell my kids is like, if you're sitting there and you're stressed out, all you have to do is breathe really deeply for like a minute, and like you can't be stressed out because your breath controls everything. It controls your state of mind, you know. And I think maybe I did figure that out in yoga, but like I went to the time that I thought like breathing was most impactful is I bought a fucking car on eBay. I think I've told you this story before, but I bought a car on eBay. I called the dude on the phone, and his ad said like, this is a flawless car. Like, this is a fucking flawless car. And he wanted like $7,500, which back then was a fucking lot of money. Like, that was a flawless car. That's what a flawless car would cost. So I talked to him on the phone. He's like, yeah, flawless car. And I go, what? I can't tell what color the interior is. Because like, if you look at these old BMWs, it's like dark blue and black. Like, if you have a camera that doesn't work so good, like, you can't tell the difference. And so I asked the dude, I'm like, what color is the interior? Is it black? It looks black. And he goes, what other color would it be? And I go, well, sometimes they're like dark blue. He goes, no, of course it's black. I'm like, okay. And I go, so this car's flawless, black interior, like that's everything I wanted. He's like, yeah, $7,500. And then he started getting all fucking weird about it. Because I told him, it's kind of like this last E12 I bought. Like, the dude was like, I'm like, I'm going to come over there and I'm going to drive that shit home. And he's like, oh, well, I got some stuff to fix on it. Like, the mechanic's fixing some shit. And I was like, well, okay, but is this car like running good? And like, everything's good about it? He's like, oh, yeah. He's just, there's like one part we had to order in from Germany or some shit. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to come pick it up. I'm going to drive this shit home. And so I show up and like I look at this car it was hilarious because Porter's with me, and so this is like 5 years ago. So he's like a 4-year-old, I guess. And like it was super important to me back then, like to have a crackless dash. And Porter just walks up and he goes, "The dash has cracks in it." And he's like yelling it, and like, but like the dash didn't have like a hairline crack or two. It had fucking like cracks everywhere. Like it was cracks everywhere. And then like the paint's fucked up. You know, the interior's fucking dark blue. This fucking asshole. I fucking specifically asked him, and he fucking thought I was crazy for saying it was fucking something other than black. Anyway, it's fucking dark blue, which I don't know, you know, what the fuck. Oh, and so this guy was, he was the producer or the director or some shit for DuckTales, the fucking cartoon, right? Fucking whatever. I didn't creepy look that shit up. Somebody else did. But anyway, we found out that he was like the director of DuckTales. He lived in Hollywood and all this shit, and he needed this money because he wanted to start a fucking new film or something. But anyway, so we got there, and I'm like, I think it was because I didn't have good boundaries. I'm like, well, I already bought the car. I fucking paid for the car. And so I showed up, and like the car is fucking wrecked, and like, so we go to take it for a test drive, and just going around the block. Like literally this car's running for like 3 minutes and it's overheating and it won't fucking run right. And the thing about E21s is like their front seat mount brakes. And so like if you drive like a stick shift, you put it in gear and you give it gas, like you fall backwards like in the back seat and you're like, and your legs fucking fly up in the air and shit. And so the seat's broke. The whole fucking the center console's all fucked up. You know, and like I'm like, oh my God, like how the fuck would I get this car home? Like it won't even make it around the block. I can't even fucking drive this fucking thing, and it's all fucked up. And like all I can think about is this car's flawless. This guy told me the car's fucking flawless. Everything's a lie about this fucking car. This is like $1,000 car now instead of $7,500. And like I said, my boundaries weren't so good. But what like was going through my head since my boundaries weren't good is like I got to take this car because I don't know how to tell this dude no. But, you know, I was like going through therapy and shit. And I was like, oh, God, I got to have boundaries with this fucking guy. And he's like pressuring me to go in his house to fucking sign the paper. You didn't have a fucking title. He's like, well, you just got to sign this paper. In California, you give a title. It's okay. Like, what the fuck ever. So he totally is like fucking me over every such way. But it was fucking crazy. But anyway, I had enough of a boundary to say I need to go somewhere and just think for a fucking minute. And so we went to this park nearby, and like I was losing my shit, right? Because I was fucking like anxious and like I had all these emotions and shit. And that's right when I was like starting to go to yoga. And so I sat in that park and I was totally fucked up emotionally, and I just started breathing. Like I started breathing super like heavy in and out and like controlling my breath. And it was the first time in my life that everything just kind of went, just like fucking everything went from like crazyville to everything was fine. And I was able to think, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, no, I'm going to go back and tell this dude fucking no. And so like I calmed down and we went back and I told the dude, no, I'm not taking this car. And he's like, you already paid for it. You have to take it. And I'm like, no, I'm not. No. And then he called the police on me because I didn't take a car. The police fucking called me and they're like, why are you running away? And fucking, I'm like, dude, I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. And then anyway, just to finish the story up, fucking PayPal wouldn't give my money back and eBay wouldn't give my money back because he didn't have the money to take. And so PayPal and eBay told me to go fuck myself. They're like, too bad. And thank God I paid with American Express, and American Express was like, here's your money back. But we're going to fucking take my money. Like this is what we talk about in the world. Like how much fucked up shit is there in that story? PayPal, eBay are corrupt fuckers, and this guy's like, I don't know, is he crazy or is he lying? You know? I don't know, man. It's crazy, but anyway, back to breathing. That's all. That was the point of that whole drawn out story. That's when I learned to control my breath, and it's been like a huge impact in my life, you know, like if I ever feel stressed out, like it's just breathing. But it's, you know, even, you know, normal people, I don't think they get enough oxygen to their brains. You know, like how many times a day does somebody like, you know, just do that like 10 times in a day and like wakes you up and you get oxygen and like, it's a big fucking deal. You know? What do you think about that?
I think you're right. I think it's a big deal.
So anyway, I guess your meditation was a big deal, like a lot of breathing and just collectiveness, and for whatever reason you're not sure, it was just awesome.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience.
So what else are you learning in there?
Stuff I've already known, like about your beliefs that we talk about. So they're big into seeing where you're at basically with your beliefs. Like, what do you believe about this business that you're starting? Where are you starting at? So let's just use an example. They had live coaching, right? And a lady came on and they're like, so what are you feeling like you need coaching with? And she's like, she initially is like, well, I have a really tough time with my voice, like feeling confident with my voice. And she goes, I'll like go to meet a client at a coffee shop and I'll like sit in the car and be like, what if they think I'm a fraud because I don't sound confident? And he kind of talked to her a little bit for a little bit. And then she like broke down and was like basically saying how she was just, she completely felt like a fraud and an imposter.
Just in general?
No, just with her coaching business.
Oh.
And so this is your belief, right? That your voice doesn't matter. And that, so she believes that she's an imposter and her voice doesn't matter. So that's your belief, right? So they're dragging these beliefs out of you at first so you can reframe them. So then he works with her and he's like, which I agree with him 100%. If you have a purpose to help people, why are you standing in your way?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like we talk, you know, I mean, you're your own worst enemy. And there's a lot in there, right? Like you're your own worst enemy, and like also like you're making shit up.
Yeah, because
like,
her experiences in life, we don't know what they are because she didn't share them, but they most certainly could be helpful to people.
Well, I think that's what we're talking about though too. Is like self-confidence is a motherfucker, especially when you're, you know, I mean, like if you're starting up a business like we're doing, I mean, I think you just have a ton more self-confidence than I do, but like it's hard to have confidence because like I feel like I'm constantly vulnerable. Like, you know, it's like, hey, everybody check this out. I made this. Like, what do you guys think? And then you put it on Facebook and they're like, fucking sucks. You fucking suck. Your whole shit sucks. And it's like, how are you confident during that? You know what I mean? And then it's like, every time you like post something, it's kind of like, okay, deep breath. Like, let's post some more shit. And then it's just like, you fucking suck. And it's like, God damn. You know, but it's not even true though. It's like, you get like 7,000 likes on something and there's like 4 guys. And they're like, fucking bullshit. It's fucking stupid. And it's like, you're just like, oh God. You know, so I think it's just hard to be confident in like, I don't know, man. It's so easy to let things get to you, I think.
Yeah, I mean, things get to me. I have confidence, but things get to me.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting. Like, so we were talking about like starting up businesses. You know, I think like it's super hard. It's super hard, and it's when you always like hear somebody going like, somebody that's an employee, they're always like, well, fuck my boss, like, well, so you get to sit around and do all this shit and fucking blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, start up your own business. You should start up your own business. You know what I mean? It's like, sort of what I said is like, you get what you deserve. And like, there's tons of people that just sit around and talk about how other people get things or how other people are so lucky. And it's just like, but they're sitting around, they're not putting themselves out there. And they're not the ones that are vulnerable. They're not the ones stacking whatever, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands on the line, putting their neck on the line. It's, you get what you deserve. And it's, I think that's like one thing I wanted to talk about is just like what a struggle it feels like starting up a business. And, that's the mental things you go through, the monetary things you go through, like everything. It's hard, and I think people look at it, and especially when they see a successful business and they're just like, oh, well, that's easy. And like, I mean, even like Jeff Bezos is like, that dude works like crazy, I'm sure. And I'm sure he put years into it, hard work into his shit. And, people all want a piece of it. They all think they deserve a piece of it. And I don't think you do. I think you need to go get your own. But I don't know. I think things are crazy today too, because, that's what we're experiencing is we're not only starting businesses, but we're wondering like what the hell's going on with the economy. Like we're wondering like what's going on with like everything. Like this isn't just starting up a business now. It feels way stressful, but
Yeah, like wondering if people are spending money or if they're not spending money, or what's going to be the state of the world in 6 weeks.
Yeah, is the dollar going to collapse? Is
Yeah.
China going to come over here and take us over? Like, are they going to take our guns? Like, I mean, like, what is happening? Like, what is happening? It's not just starting up a business. It's just like, oh my God, like, just hold on. Just put your seatbelt on and fucking hold on. But I guess that's what so, it's what we talk about, right? Is just you live for the day. There's no guarantees tomorrow. There never has been. There's never, even when the economy or whatever, there's no COVID or anything like that. When things were amazing, there was no guarantee there's a tomorrow.
No, there never is, like you said.
So, I think a lot of people are anxious right now, though. I think a lot of people are feeling like things are not good. And, I don't know. Who knows? But I guess we're starting to talk about making changes too, like doing business, but then, like just do something, right? Like you don't want to sit around and just freeze, right? You don't want to sit around and
Yeah.
do fucking nothing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we were doing actually for a little bit, is just like, I mean, we had reasons, but at the same time, it was just kind of like chilling and seeing what happens post COVID. And I don't know. I think it was fine because that's what we were doing in life. But now it's like, especially if you need the money, like I think you gotta go. You gotta do something. You gotta be productive. And that's what we're talking about is we made hard choices this last week of spending money on hydroponics, committing to the diet of hydroponics, committing to keeping hydroponics alive, doing seeds and not wasting it and everything around hydroponics, and then talking about chickens and fencing chickens in. And, it's just like going through a lot of, I think it's stressful to even talk about, like even think about like, man, we might need hydroponics and chicken to survive. Like, I think it's a wild thought that like, if you would have said 3 years ago, like you guys are doing what? Like, yeah, no, we're talking about growing food at home just to live. Because that's how crazy the fucking world feels right now, is we don't know what's happening. We don't know. I mean, it could be, that podcast we were listening to, Jordan Peterson's podcast, when they were talking about inflation and all that shit. I mean, that guy's basically like, I mean, the dollar could collapse tomorrow and it wouldn't, like, nobody's going to be surprised. dollar collapses tomorrow, what's going to happen? I don't know. But it's like
I
when,
think Portland will happen all over the United States.
yeah. So how many people don't understand what the fuck is happening in Portland or like probably LA, Seattle? I don't know how bad like New York would be, but it's like, I think if you lived in like, I don't know, Idaho or something, like something where things have been managed a little bit better, I don't, or like Utah, I don't think my family would understand if you're living in Salt Lake. Like my sister, I was talking to my sister, she lives in Salt Lake. I don't think people understand what is happening in Portland. And even like when I explained it to my sister, I'm like, no, dude, there's a great crazy shit. Like so much homelessness, like so much garbage on the side of the road. Like there's businesses moving out of Portland. Like Walmart's gone, REI is gone. Like how many like businesses we don't know that are gone. Like you don't have to drive around with license plates down there anymore. You don't have to obey traffic fucking rules. There's no police. Like, I mean, I don't think the news reports on housing and like what's actually happening there, but it's like I don't think people understand what Portland is now. Portland is third world. That's what you and I were talking about. Like, so I was at the gas station last night, and some dude was like looking at my car, and he's like, "Yeah, no, I just got this BMW over here. And I don't know, it was a 2012 or something BMW. It was nice and everything." He's like, "I got it in an auction." Like he's like, "Fucking girlfriend lives in Portland. Some tweaker ripped off my gas panel off of my car." I was like, dude, I'm like, I don't go down there. And he's like, yeah, I wish I didn't have to. He's like, my car gets fucked with every night that I'm down there. And it's like, this is what I'm saying. This is what Portland is. Portland is, what the fuck is going on? Insanity.
It is insanity.
Yeah. So I don't know what's happening in the world, but I'm guessing like LA and Seattle are pretty similar. San Francisco doesn't look good, I guess. I don't know.
Me either.
But I guess the point we're talking about is like, I feel like shit could happen tomorrow. And I feel like when it does happen, it's going to happen super fast. I feel like it's been drawing itself out for a long time. And then I feel like when it finally pops, it'll be like stock market's gone, like crypto's gone, housing market's gone, groceries gone. I feel like everything's just going to happen all at once. I don't feel like it would be like a slow drizzle all the way to the end until you're like, oh, I didn't realize I didn't have anything. It's been like 5 years. So anyway, I think things are just kind of crazy around the world, and not everybody can see it. But I don't remember how we even got on this conversation now.
Yeah, because it's been like 2 hours. I'm sure a lot more people are freaked out than like we realize. Like I think people have to be like lower income people have to be freaked out.
I don't think it's the lower income people. I think it's the middle class. Because lower income people are always out of money. You know what I mean? Like you make a paycheck and they spend the paycheck when they get it.
But now they have even less than they've ever had.
No, I don't think. I mean, I don't know everybody's situation, but I feel like that's not the case. I feel like when you have $0, like now you have $0. I think like maybe you're not going to the movies or you're not going to the water park or whatever you're doing. Like maybe you're cutting that out. But I still think low income people still have $0 in their name. I think it's the middle class that's struggling because I think, if you had $1 million sitting in stocks and now you have $200,000 sitting in stocks, you're not used to being poor. You're not used to being out of money. But now, like that's, you know what I mean? Like if you're always low income, you always have $0. But now you're middle class and now you have $0. That's fucking shocking. Like that's hard to deal with. You know what I mean? And I think that's who's dealing. The ultra rich don't give a shit because like if I have $50 million in the bank. Now I have 25 million in the bank. It's kind of like, well,
So you just don't think the lower class are affected by it at all?
no, I don't think so. I mean, they're affected, but not. I think it's the middle class. The middle class is the ones that are paying prices for it.
So then you do think they notice?
The lower class?
No, the middle class.
Oh, yeah, the middle class is that's who's paying the price.
Because you said you're not sure if people are noticing. I just wasn't sure.
Noticing the money? The low class aren't. Like, people in poverty aren't. That's what I'm saying. They $0, they have $0. It's the middle class. It's the guy that has saved money and like.
Do you think a lot of people are living on credit cards?
I think I always have, but I think people are running out of credit.
When you say middle class, like I have known a lot of middle class people who appear rich and have a lot of things, but they may not like have $200,000 in the bank.
But I still think those are the people that are feeling it, because even though they're like low class or poverty, I shouldn't call them low class probably, but like if they're poverty,
We're speaking factually. We're not like pointing at like the people.
I wouldn't even say factually, because nothing I'm saying is factual. There's like the middle class. They appear they have a ton of crap because they spend all their money, right? And so they don't have any money because they spend it. But they're going to feel it too, because now they can't buy that new car. They can't buy, the people we talk about at the mall that like buy thousands of dollars worth of shit. And that's a hard thing to deal with, is when you're used to being able to spend money and now all of a sudden you have to budget. And I think it's more like on your psyche. I think your psyche's like, oh my God. Like, I think that's where the stress comes from, is like, like you and I did, like, oh shit, like we're going to do hydroponics. Like, hydroponics isn't that big a deal, but your brain like saying you need to adapt because change is here. Whether that's hydroponics and chickens, or whether that's not buying a new car every single year, like it's a slap in the face going like, hey, some shit has changed.
Yet that homeless guy had a big gulp.
But he always did. He always did.
But it's kind of crazy that he still can get one, because I'm not going to get Starbucks coffees right now. You're
middle class. That's what I'm saying. You are paying the price. That guy is like always broke. He finds a fucking dollar on the ground and goes and gets a Slurpee. His life isn't changing. It's not. None of this is fucking up like poverty people. It's all middle class. So that's what they're saying. A war on the middle class, and it's like businesses when COVID shut down restaurants. That's a war on the middle class.
Where do you think all the homeless people are coming from?
I think I'm guessing a lot of it's middle class going into poverty. And I think it's just a lot of drugs too. I think it's a lot of drugs, and they're going from middle class, low middle class to poverty.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy to think about.
The crazy thing to think about is like how safe you are being in poverty. Like, fuck it, whatever, man. And those people are like,
how safe you are? I don't get it.
Well, your life doesn't change. Like, what you don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I was trying to explain to my kids about like think of it this way. Like, I've spent my whole life working hard and saving money. And now it's looking like that was a fucking stupid thing to do. It was stupid. I should have just blown all my money like a fucking idiot.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be living here right now had you done that.
Well, I mean, I guess it could just come to moderation. Everything in moderation. Spend some money, save some money. But right now it's looking like everything was a joke on everybody. Unless you're ultra rich, it's like the middle class is just going to be taken down to the poverty. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know. I don't know why I brought this up, but it's just
kind of just the state of everything, as I think what we were talking about, how it's starting a business right now is a little.
But it's all war on middle class, It's like they where the IRS is saying, you make $600 or whatever, and you got to register as a business. Even if it's like selling used shit on eBay, like you got to register as a fucking business, and they're just making it hard. They're destroying any single way to make money. Like you can't go out there and just hustle anymore and make money. I mean, you can, but they're making it harder.
They're wanting total absolute control over every dime.
Yeah. And that's what you were saying about, what was it? This federal
Fed now.
They're gonna make everything so you can just track every dollar, and
you can actually stop any transaction you want.
Stop transactions, you can tax it all, like it's a war on the middle class. Like, do you think poverty people care about that shit? Like, dude, I don't have any money. Who cares? Who cares if they track my money that I don't have? Who cares if they stop money that I don't have? It's all middle class that are hustling out there, and they're trying to make a couple bucks. And whether you agree with evading taxes or not is a different story. But like, there's no more working under the table. Like, they're gonna end that shit, and I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now.
Yeah, there's a lot to think about, but I think people are feeling it. That's what I'm saying. Like the middle class, I think is. Well, I think this is another thing I was telling the kids is I think the middle class, we've gotten so spoiled and we've gotten so rich. Like, for example, so Porter said that he had a pizza party. Porter had a pizza party in school, and he was telling me, he goes, you would be shocked. Every single kid in there that ate pizza did not eat their crust. I'm like, dude, I'm not shocked. It's fucking bullshit. And that's why I told him, I said, this is why I made you guys eat crust. I'm not dealing with this shit. Because not eating your crust is a fucking spoiled ass move to make. And it's all fine and dandy until the apocalypse comes. And when the apocalypse comes, guess what? You don't know how to eat crust. You don't know eating crust is a fucking thing. And so you're over there starving to death while there's crust sitting in front of you. Like, it's literally that bad right now. And so I was trying to explain this to the kids, and it's like, this is what's happening to the middle class, is the middle class, they're eating at McDonald's every day. They're spending, McDonald's is, for a family of four, how much, like, if they're buying French fries and sodas too. You know what I mean? They're not just buying off the value menu. So a family of four is going in there and spending $50-$60 a meal. And this is my point, is the middle class doesn't know how to cut back. We've gone too far. And that's why it's hurting them. And they're going to hurt so bad because they don't know how to regulate their money. They don't know how to save. Like, they're just like these brainless people now that are out spending money and not eating pizza crust. It's what we do. So I don't know. Not looking good. That's all I'm saying. But that's what we talk about too, right? We talk about, you and I are super frugal. Like, we eat at home, except for one time a week. And when we don't eat at home that one time a week, it's cheap.
Yeah, it is cheap.
Like $20.
$23.99,
yeah.
$23.59.
We don't eat expensive or anything like that, and I mean, we don't spend money. We don't buy clothes. We don't buy a bunch of crap, and we're still feeling it. And that's a couple of people that know how to cut back.
Yeah, it's true.
So I don't know. Well, I think that was the point we were making before, though, is you just live for the day. Live for the day, but you still got to adapt. And
yeah, it's like we talk. You can't be complacent while you're living for the day. You can still take action.
Well, it's like we were talking about with running a business, is how many people talk about a business and they get so amped up and they're like, so good idea. I love this. This is great. I'm going to start a business, and talking with their friends and shit. And then it's just forgotten.
Hard.
Well,
or it gets hard.
Well, that's why it gets forgotten.
Yeah. Because
you actually have to do something about it now. You have to put money down. You have to get out there and work, and you have to be vulnerable, and you have to do this and that. And then you just go, oh, I could have started a business. I like my job, you know, or whatever. And you can't, those people just get whatever they're fed because of that, because they're not willing to make choices. They're not willing to do the hard shit. And that's what you and I were talking about growing hydroponics and chicken, is like, we had to sit down and like look at each other and go, holy shit, this is scary. Like, I don't want to. I don't fucking want to.
I don't want to eat tomatoes every morning for breakfast.
Yeah. Like, I gotta eat salads and shit. Well, but you and I were talking about how we don't like to really like cook. You know, we'll throw some food in the air fryer and just eat something simple. Because well, I mean, you want to talk about the same thing as being spoiled? Like, that's being spoiled.
It is.
It's the same thing as a family of four going to McDonald's and paying $50, $60 and not knowing how to cut that shit out. It's the same thing. We come home and we're like, I don't know, you throw something in the air fryer and you eat that shit. But making the choice to say, I'm going to grow some food on the wall and I'm going to change the way I eat and I'm going to put effort into preparing my food, you've got to adapt. And this is what I'm saying. Like, these people haven't adapted when they thought they had a good business. They're scared to make changes and they don't want to. They just don't want to. And that's going to, like, all these people are going to suffer. You're going to go into like forced adapting instead of like mindful, good things of way of adapting.
Well, in many cases, it'll be too late. There'll be no chance to adapt.
Right, and that's what we're talking about too. Is we're making the choice right now when we still have money to make these choices. If you wait till the last minute, you're gonna be like, oh my god, or you know, like we've been preparing with rice and beans. You know, and all of a sudden we figured out, well, you just don't store rice and beans in a giant Rubbermaid in your crawl space because
there's an appropriate way to do it.
Yeah, there's actually and that's what we had to do, is like, oh shit, we can't do that, and so we had to buy buckets, which buckets are now expensive. They're like probably $250, like $300. I don't remember how it was. You know, like everything costs money to do it right, and it's like when it's too late, you can't just go. Maybe you can't even just go buy the rice and beans, but you can't buy the buckets because now you're out of money. You can't fence a chicken coop in. You can't, like, the hydroponic shit's going to cost a lot of money. You know, you can't make those moves later on.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to adapt now, and I just don't see people doing that. So I don't know what's going to happen.
I think a lot of people now, from what I've read, have like 2 or 3 jobs.
I'll work from home.
Yeah, some of
2 or 3 at the same time.
They're trying to do side hustles a lot right now to get extra money. Some people, not all.
Yeah. I mean, some people are pretty industrious, but a lot of people at the same time are helpless.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's those helpless people that are going to turn into poverty, and they're going to turn into homeless.
They're going to be in Portland.
Well, but then, like you were saying, like, what about Escape from LA?
Yeah.
When Portland goes down the shitter, does it matter if you're middle class or upper class?
No, I don't think it will. I think it's going to be like Escape from LA.
Well, because the poverty is going to be taking your shit, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you have millions of dollars. Like, you're just going to have to abandon it because people are going to want it. When people are starving and homeless and shit, and there's more starving and homeless people than like functioning people, those starving and homeless people are going to want to take all the shit. I mean, a lot of assumptions and a lot of just thinking, but I don't know how many people out there right now are like I say, I feel like there's a lot of anxiety, especially in this area, because I think we can see it. We can see Portland, and we can see it going down the drain. And so I think at least here, it's probably causing a lot of people anxiety.
Yeah.
And like I said, in Utah, maybe people are like, everything's great. Like, life is normal, because it might be, but there's still a lot of other stuff, you know, like China and the US dollar and inflation. You know, inflation isn't stopping, I don't think.
No.
But shit's getting more expensive every single day. And when it just keeps getting more and more expensive, I don't know what you even do.
You adapt and eat ramen and eat unhealthy and eat potatoes. Like,
people who know how to adapt. What about the rest of them?
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. I don't know. So crazy times.
Crazy times, crazy podcast with Eric and Carol.
Yeah. It was our first one. So
More to come.
yeah, we'll learn some things. And if anybody's got advice, if we talk too much or talk too little or talked about stuff that people don't want to talk about.
Yeah,
whatever.
let us know.
We're looking for input. We're just kind of doing these once a week and talk about whatever's on our mind, and hopefully it resonates with people. And I'm sure there's other people out there like us that are thinking the same things we're doing.
Yeah, we're also doing a lot of hard shit right now to just grow as people.
I feel like everything in our life right now is hard.
Yeah.
And I feel like we talked about, it's in a crazy time. We're doing very hard things in very hard times.
Yeah.
Which is very stressful, and
it is.
Yeah, it's, you really got to work together and count on each other and be there for each other. And so we talked about, imagine if we like hated each other.
No.
Like if we weren't there to support each other, it'd be.
No, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I'm lucky I have you.
Yeah, we talk about we're feel lucky to have each other. So I guess that's all I gotta say. We'll figure out some more stuff next week or whatever.
Yeah, until next week.